Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. Today I want to get into some more questions from the audience. Remember to drop your comments and questions on any sort of YouTube video that I do, and I will go through that comment section every now and then and find interesting stuff with meat on the bones, and we'll get into it together. And one thing I always like saying, and I think it's so important that you guys hear it, is that the questions you guys wonder about are almost always a point of curiosity for a wide range of people that enjoy this game. So please drop those comments and help that dialogue and the community grow in knowledge together. I appreciate it. And before we get into it, my name is Dwayne Cunningham and I go by Infidel1258. And on this channel, we cover Splinterlands all day, every day, because it's changed my life. And so let's get into it without further ado. Okay, so I haven't done any sort of pre-selection of comments this time. Occasionally I will. If I find one that's really great and might merit a video, I'll start there. But this time I'm just turning on the comment section and we'll see what we get. Okay, so Papadero says, do you know how long you can buy one pack for 4,000 DEC? When the airdrop ends, they may change the analogy. I guess he means like that rate of exchange, or even stop the DEC option for packs. It was always, so I don't think they've said clearly that it'll be available until such and such date, but it has always been the case that DEC was 1,000 to 1. It was always the case, and it only recently broke for a period of time because DEC was so valuable, and I think even initially, Splinterlands, even when DEC went from 1/10 of a penny, from 1,000 equaling $1. That's the exchange rate. It soared all the way up to 2 pennies per DEC. And so in that disconnect, which happened over a period of weeks and short months, it was like in August 2021 to maybe November 2021. It was really a few months where it really soared. And then at some point, Splinterlands said, okay, look, we're at that moment accepting DEC for different things like potions and whatnot at that exchange rate. And certain players were getting hosed by the fact that they didn't recognize when they come in here and they go shop and they buy potions and they would buy, whatever potion they wanted. Remember, there used to be quest reward potions, and they would come in and buy these, not recognizing that DEC was being almost underappreciated at that moment due to the fact that the market price was so disconnected from what the true exchange rate was. And so on the one hand, Splinterlands was kind of ripping people off, but it came out of this like radical transformation in the price, not maliciousness, not ill will, not even like a desire for profit. They have always called it 1,000 equals $1. And just because of the market got exuberant over DEC and the buying pressure around DEC grew and grew and grew, due in large part to the SPS airdrop, there was a disconnect. And so at that point they came in, they said, okay, well, look, we have to start accepting DEC at US dollar value because it's so expensive on the market. Some new players are going to go ahead and buy it. They're going to earn it and they're going to give it to us at this 1,000 to $1 ratio, which isn't fair. And they only broke, my point is that they only broke that peg for our protection, for actually the protection of the players who didn't know better. And so my expectation would be that the 1,000 to $1 ratio will stay for a long, long time. That will in fact be, it was always true and it will continue to be true. Now, it doesn't apply to certain assets. If you guys are new to the game, you might not know. It's not like a 1,000 DEC equals $1 always in the marketplace. Like if I go buy a card, this Pellicore Mercenary or this Radiated Scorcher, it's being bought from a player, and that is listed in a US dollar value, and I could pay with DEC, and that would be it boils down to what is the DEC worth in that moment from a US dollar value, and so I'm actually paying the USD value. And so the peg has nothing to do with card prices in the market because that's peer-to-peer. But the peg comes into play here in the shop when we're buying nodes or land or potions or skins from Splinterlands. And the peg really only matters, I guess, when the peg breaks into below its intended value, right? Where you get that arbitrage opportunity, where it's certainly possible that, and it has existed in the past, where DEC would be available on this marketplace. You could come in and buy dark energy crystals for less than 0.001. That's peg value. 0.001 right there is peg value, and it has sold for far lower, like probably half of that at time. And if that's so, you could theoretically come in here and buy it and then sell it to Splinterlands for the arbitrage opportunity, which is the interesting, unique moment in time that is right now. Because as you saw with Crypto Llama's video, and I got a quick little video out tonight to kind of, which will be June 1st, to really make sure that point's resonating and landing with you guys. Because right now DEC almost has zero risk, like literally zero risk, and tons of upside potential, because it's giving you 56 more days of SPS airdrops. And then the DEC at the end of that airdrop can be dumped into packs. So it's like, and then you're probably going to win on the packs, because they'll sell out eventually, and then there'll be appreciation on that. Or you can sell the packs, or you know what I mean? There's just so many different ways that you can win with holding DEC at this moment because of this peg that you're asking about. So if you don't know some of what I'm talking about, make sure you check out Crypto Llama's page. He's a YouTuber. He does a great job, and he's recently covered a video like buy DEC now or something. And I'm doing a video on June 1st just pointing toward his, because it's that important that you guys know that stuff. So I hope that answers the question. I don't really know when they'll stop doing it, but the point is that they've always kind of done it, and they only stopped doing it recently due to the fact that they were harming us by holding it there. I hope that made sense, and thanks for the question, Papaderos. Carlos Namor says, I am happy with the new death card that got stunned. Just love setting it up with Magic Reflection Summoner. 12, what is your favorite reward card so far? So far, I mean, so far makes me wonder if you're thinking, I think you must be referring to the modern ones, like the brand new reward cards. Let's have a peek. Kyo. So these are the new ones. Ever Hungry Skull is among my first. I did a video on this, actually. Maybe I should quickly throw to that. I'm not going to show you the video, but I will. Let's see, where is it? I think it's called Top 4. Yeah, Top 4 new rewards. So this is like a 50 minute video, but in there I do tell you my 4 favorite from all of the new reward cards. Now, if that's not you should definitely watch that. It's a great video. Me and Jim Morgan deep dive on all of the new 12 reward cards, talking about what are some of the pros and some of the cons for each of them. And we describe how we might, in some cases, we describe how they might synergize well with summoners that exist, or with, other monsters. And I think that's really a valuable video to try and understand how kind of a more veteran player at Splinterlands, myself, thinks through value that's intrinsic to each card. That's an important skill to foster in your own kind of analytic game, because you want to be able to have that analysis. You want it to come easy, and so you almost need to practice that sort of thoughtfulness, because when the cards come up on the marketplace, you want to be able to prepare and say, this is really valuable because it partners with blank blank blank, and it'll allow me to win more because X, Y, and Z. And that sort of thoughtfulness is going to allow you to recognize deals before other people do, and increase the value of your investment by recognizing intrinsic value even when the price is perhaps low. And always remember, we've said it lots of times on this channel, but I haven't said it recently. There's an idea of value that's built into the card. That's what it's worth. And then there's a price that's associated with the card. And the price has almost nothing to do with the value. That's really important. That's why these reward cards can be so inexpensive in 2022. But in the near future, I think what might be 6 months, or even it could be, a couple of years away. But I think we're going to, regardless, that's relatively short. We might see 50x or 100x on some of the price values of some of these reward cards, because value is what it's worth, but price is what you pay for it. And that can be greatly disconnected. So you need to train yourself to try and discern where value is, where hidden value exists, so that you can then grow what your investment looks like. So my favorite 4, I'll tell you, just go watch the video. But I'll tell you that among all reward cards, which is a different question, let's Let's quickly look, because I'm sure one or two will pop up. So rewards. Oh, rewards. And this will just all the rewards that have ever existed. Quickly looking through. Nightmare is one of my favorite cards in the game. It's so fast. It's got great amount of hit points. It does blast damage, so it only does like 3 damage a diamond, which might feel like not very much, but then the blast damage really helps you out, right? So it's like more like 5. There's 3 on the first position, 2 on the second position. It can be a real beast. It's only 8 mana. It's exceedingly fast. It partners extremely well because of its existing speed and because of its high hit point pool. It works so well with Byzantine Kitty. And so I love it. Nightmare is probably my favorite reward card of all time, but there are so many good ones in here. Other favorite ones of mine, Exploding Dwarf, again because of speed and destructive power. Like a glass cannon though, you got to be careful how you use that one. Other really, really important ones to me include Gelatinous Cube. It's such a, to me, this is almost like a must-have, but at the same time, the value's gotten quite large, and it's worth looking at other alternatives that might give you something similar. What does this card do? It gives, why is it valuable? It has a huge hit point pool. Are there other cards that have huge hit point pools that are, you know, less expensive? There are, and you need to kind of, then you need to say like, well, this one's got 13 or 14 hit points and it's got self-heal. What if I got 10 hit points and it didn't have a self-heal, but it was way cheaper, right? These are the give and take that you can do. You know, you might be able to supply something that offers a similar utility for a card like a Gelatinous Cube, but doesn't have the price tag of it, because Cube is now so identified as really a powerful off tank, like that non-attacking tank, that its price has gone crazy. I mean, it used to be a penny or whatever. So, you know, this is the sort of growth that exists for certain cards and will exist for other cards in the future. And this is one example of a reward card that was amazing. So those are 3 I think I gave you. Cube, Nightmare, and I forget the other one I threw out there, Dwarf. And there's tons of amazing ones. So, and if you want to see my 4 modern, the new ones from the Vampire Reward series, check out that video. Okay. And then Gathering the Magic says, I always have trouble with the Equalizer rule set. Can you explain your thought process on how you create a team for Equalizer? Definitely, but I think I did a video on this. I'm pretty sure I have a video on this. And so maybe I won't. No, back to basics. No, you're right. Okay, so it was back to basics I covered. So yeah, I'll take a few minutes here and I'll try to cover Equalizer. Okay, so with Equalizer, one of the important things that you want to think through, before I get into that, let's go over to Splinter cards and we'll go find these are abilities. We'll go to rule set. Equalizer is the rule set that looks like this, and it says the initial health of all monsters is equal to that of the monster on either team with the highest base health. Okay, so if you have one monster who has 10 hit points, and that's the highest hit point monster, every monster on the field, both enemy and friend, will have 10 hit points. And that can be really, really helpful if you build a team whose main weakness is their low hit points. I'm going to say that again. This rule set allows you to take advantage and find great utility in monsters whose main weakness is their low hit points. Such as that dwarf I just showed you a minute ago. The Exploding Dwarf has 1 hit point at every level, but it has huge damage. It's a glass cannon. That's what we call a glass cannon. It has lots of damage, but it's very vulnerable, you know, glass cannon. And it's got blast and piercing and retaliate and trample. At the highest levels, this card is absolutely devastating. And even it's got speed. So literally the one and only weakness this thing really has is its low hit points. So in an Equalizer rule setting, a card like this shines because that one weakness is taken away. And therefore it becomes absolutely overpowered in that context. Particularly at the highest levels when you start getting these other abilities like Retaliate, Trample, and Piercing, but even at the lowest levels with Blast and 3 hit points. that's one of the first things. You want to look for cards that have the lowest, whose main weakness happens to be their low hit points, and try and slot them in. And that's the first main tip I'm going to throw to you. And there are many other examples of it. Another one that I like to do, these are not all reward cards, is the Enchanted Defender. There he is, Enchanted Defender. Again, it has its whole thing is high defense. It has thorns at higher levels. It has a decent amount of damage. It's quite slow. So the main weakness here, again, is that one hit point. But if you have an Equalizer, bam, that whole issue is fixed. And suddenly you go from 1 hit point to 10, and you still got the 9 armor. So cards like that are really, really powerful. There's tons of other examples, and I won't kind of go too far down that road. But definitely looking for cards where their main weakness is low hit points is the first thing that you need to look for. Second of all, healing can be very powerful in this rule set, because imagine if you've got what is a healer. First of all, if you don't know, the way healing works is it's dependent on how many hit points the monster being healed has. It's a percentage. It's like I forget the exact breakdown of how healing works, but it works something like if you have 10 hit points, you can heal 3. If you have 12 hit points, you can heal 4 or 5. And if you have, the bigger your hit point pool is, the more impactful healing is. And so in the context of Equalizer, if you bring a heal and you slap it in the very back, it's going to have this opportunity to heal 4 or 5 extra monsters in front of you, right? And that is going to give the power, and the effectiveness of that heal is going to go so much further. Another tip is that it doesn't pay to often do a sneak attack or an opportunity monster. Now it can, and there's certain ways you might, like a sandworm can be super devastating even in Equalizer rule sets. But the thing about sneak attack, opportunity, snipe attack, all of these types of modes of attack require, or they actually take advantage of an opponent by victimizing their weakest, lowest hit point monsters. Think about it. A sneak attacker is amazing because it attacks the rear of your enemy's army, which is almost always a support monster that is very pivotal with like maybe a heal, an inspire, a repair, some sort of support ability. That's where they go. They go in the back or in the middle. They don't go in the front, right? You don't put like you don't put your main healer in the first position. You don't put your main support monsters in your first or second position. You put them in the back. You hide them. And so sneak attackers can take advantage of that vulnerability by attacking those spaces first. Same with snipe, same with opportunity. But in the context of the Equalizer rule set, imagine who's vulnerable when they all have the same amount of hit points. No one. No one's more vulnerable than anyone else in that context. And so what is really important to do then is actually focus fire. If you've got 5 or 6 monsters on the field, make sure they're all shooting the first position. Or for that matter, make sure they're all shooting the 6th position. It doesn't matter really, as long as you're focus firing. But if you're doing 1 sniper and 1 opportunity and 1 sneak attack and one or 2 monsters attacking your enemy's first position, that's not good. That's really, really dangerous in an Equalizer rule setting where all of his monsters are going to have 5, 6, 7, 10 hit points, and you're just going to be damaging them a little bit while he's focusing you down. Those are 3 big tips for Equalizer. One last tip, and then I'm going to walk away from the question. And there's probably tons more tips I could give you, but one last tip is in the Equalizer rule set, remembering that even a 1 mana cost monster that has 1 hit point can be upgraded in a huge way up to that. Say, like in my example given, he could have 10 hit points for 1 mana. And so you can do interesting things with that rule set where you happen to know, like you happen to have, for instance, 1 magic monster that's really powerful, and maybe you have Ruler of the Seas. You have Ruler of the Seas. It's got blast damage. It's got magic damage. One of its weaknesses is its low hit points. Well, that's going to be solved. This is going to be a very devastating card in that context. But then 6 mana is not inexpensive. So you might say to yourself, well, I'm gonna use this, but then I'm gonna bury it behind 2 or 3 or even 4 or 5 low hit point low mana cost monsters, 1 mana monsters that are really inexpensive. You could go ooze, you could go chicken, you could go fiend. Any of these fiends will do, and each one of these monsters could be in front of you. I just give you literally, you could have 3 of these in front of you, and there's others too that are 1 mana or 2 or even 3 mana that might not really add any significant damage output to you, but they create this massive meat shield for a really low cost because they're going to have the same amount of hit points as everyone else. So that's 4 different tips for that rule set, the Equalizer rule set. I hope that's helpful to you. Maybe I'll say, if there's any 5th tip or 6th tip that you guys are thinking about while you're listening to me talk that I didn't address, I'd love to see the comments below, because that's something I want. Again, I want to help the community grow, not just by my words and my knowledge, but actually from the community driven analysis and discussion. Okay. Well, let's do 2 or 3 more. You pouted that. Do you think land will give potions? Do you think land will give potions to increase the capture rate? Also, are tournament winnings a taxable thing? Okay, so second question is definitely talk to your accountant. I mean, every jurisdiction is different. You'd have to talk to your accountant on that one. But on the first point, do you think land will give potions to increase the capture rate? I certainly think that's possible. Capture, yeah, maybe. I don't really have a clear idea what the land will produce. I know that it's going to produce potions. I know that those, and actually I think the items are going to be disposable. They'll be usable in battles, and they'll increase your ability to win and the amount of wins you're going to get with Splinterlands. That's huge, right? It's game changing. Land is going to really, really, really redefine the meta and how we win in this game. It's going to be so impactful that land is exciting. And I think everyone currently is sleeping on land because we're too focused on new reward cards, new rank reward battles, validator nodes, Chaos Legion packs. Soon we'll be talking about Rift Watchers. All of it is great, but they're distractions pulling us away from land. And that's in part why land has really gone down recently from like $700 a plot or something like that down into, look at this, $216 per plot. And I've been buying land recently because I really do believe this is a very meaningful asset. I think this is going to be a revenue generating asset. This is like a stock in your portfolio of stocks that is going to pay dividends, I think, and they will be substantial and significant. And there's not nearly enough land for everyone to have. And right now, $200 is the price being paid for those who are very forward thinking, because this isn't on the immediate next launching block, right? Like right now we're focused on these other issues that I just mentioned, and land is not ready yet. And so we can't, some people aren't imagining what it'll look like. Some people don't have any idea what it is. And that uncertainty, it's almost like a fog of war in a video game. That uncertainty is going to restrict price growth on this asset until we get closer to launch time. I think this is an amazing asset. I think the rewards that are coming out of using land, because it will allow us to farm resources, and those resources will create potions and items. Those potions and items will sell from nowhere else except for us, the landowners. And so I do actually think that ECR might be part of what we get out of that. Like there might be potions we can craft that will increase ECR, but time will tell. I could see them saying no to that specific request, because that could maybe get gimmicked by bot owners just buying up those potions to let the bots run wild. But I like it as speculation, and I think it would be possible. And I do agree that that's the sort of excitement that we should be thinking about now, while no one is talking about land. For you to bring that question up is telling me you're thinking about, the future of Splinterlands, the future opportunities, not just the ones that everyone else is screaming about right now. So good for you. Great question. And yeah, thanks for supporting the channel. Mr. Saga says, I'm currently playing in Wild Gold 3. I guess everybody's playing in Wild, right? I haven't really even... Yeah, so everyone's playing in Wild at the moment. But we will soon have a chance to say Wild or Modern. Back to the question. So you're in gold 3, and I have enough packs to receive a couple of the legendary summoners. That's great from the airdrop. Guaranteed 3 of the last summoner. Wow, good for you. If you were to receive a gold foil legendary summoner, would you hold it for a price appreciation rental income, or would you sell it and try to max the other legendary summoners? Ooh, good question. Okay, so I didn't send Jovac a little something. Jovac. Okay. And then here's the question. Okay, so would you sell, if I got a gold foil legendary summoner, would I sell it or would I rent it? Man, that's a great question. The rental side of things is this ongoing dividend that you can collect from this portfolio of stocks, right? Like each one of these is essentially a stock in your portfolio, your investment. And each one of them has that revenue generating potential. And particularly legendary summoners, especially gold foils, will represent a long-term revenue generating opportunity. And so that's definitely worth considering. The hold and rent is definitely worth considering, but the sell is also a very exciting opportunity. And you need to kind of walk through that tension yourself, understanding where your deck is at and thinking through, okay, if I sold it, and it would depend on which summoner, and it would depend on how effective that was for your deck, and it would depend on what the market price of that monster was, because perhaps the market gets excited about that one summoner way before others, and so you could sell it for $400, but other legendary summoners are selling for $50. That would be to me, whoa, let's go, sell it, sell it, sell it. Even if later on the summoner you sold goes to 5,000, but you sold it for 500, that doesn't matter to me. Like I sold my Jotans for 20 bucks back when I got them through the Untamed airdrop. I sold the Jotans for $20 and they're now worth 400 bucks each or something. Is that a big bad deal? Well, before you answer that question, you have to recognize that when I took that $20, I was able to put it into Kitty. So I sold a few Jotans and I bought a maxed out Kitty. And as a result, I now have a game-changing summoner, my Byzantine Kitty, that I play all the time, that has a better than 50% win rate, that is, by everyone's admission, one of the best, maybe the best summoner in the game right now. And so the question isn't just which one is more effective, or which price tag is going to pay you faster. That's part of the question, but that's only part of it. Yeah, that's an important thing, but also what other opportunities do you have in front of you that you could take that value and reinvest in order to maximize, in order to grow, in order to impact what you're doing here in a more meaningful way? Because that's the tension though. It's hard to answer. It's going to be very unique in your particular instance, because you might really want a death summoner and then you get one. And then the question is, should you sell it? Well, you really wanted a death summoner and now you have it. Or it might be that you don't even care about death splinter and you get a death summoner. Well, then that moves the needle more towards sell. So there's all these different considerations that would make it too hard to really answer in detail for you. It's going to depend on the summoner's quality. It's going to depend on the summoner's price. It's going to depend on other assets that you're interested in and their price, because you can move from summoner to the asset number 2, which could really, really improve what you're doing. There's a lot to think about, and it's a great question, so thank you for the question. But I'm going to have to leave it there. Doesn't seem to be working. Proton 1987. Yeah. Proton 7. I don't know, my dude. It's not working. Apologies though. Thanks for the comment. And Matt Strat gets in there. He says, I would sell it immediately. Those early listing prices are always insane. That's true. That's a good point. I'd then probably buy back after about 2 weeks. Yeah, this is an interesting strategy. Yeah, that could certainly work for you. Also, you could potentially, a gold foil of that summoner is going to be level 2, and you could theoretically sell it and then buy back a level 2 of the regular foil version, and you'll have money left over. That would be the real consideration that I would weigh, but it would be surrounded by all that thought I just expressed a moment ago. And this might be the last. Marco says, can you make a video about the new chests? I kind of did. It's this one, Diamond Grind, and the new rewards explained. It's me kind of figuring it out, to be honest. So it's not going to be an in-depth deep dive on how it works. It's really me stumbling through it in this way of, you know, hopefully letting you see, you know, what I'm recognizing and maybe what I'm not, and hopefully that's valuable. So check that one out. One more. C-Lad, Dwayne, can you give some advice on how to protect account? Yeah, that's a great question, and there's a lot to that. I would say to you that I've done a video on, gotta go to videos, search. This would be the one video I would recommend you really review, how to link Splinterlands to Hive. This is an important video talking about security and convenience. Understanding that your Splinterlands account is a Hive account is a very important thing. And then you need to get the keys for that. Once you have the private keys, you need to restore them in a secure manner. Using Hive keychain is one really powerful tool that will help you utilize the tools, increase your convenience when you're accessing either Splinterlands or Steam Monsters or Hive Engine, and a variety of other third-party tools that you might use within the space, conveniently, effectively, and efficiently, and safely. And so that's maybe what I would point you to, how to link Splinterlands to Hive, and utilizing Hive keychain, and then just knowing more about how keys work. So maybe that's basic to you. I don't know your level of confidence with this stuff, C-Lad. I know you've been around the channel for a long time, so maybe you know that already and maybe you don't. But for those who don't understand that, please watch that video. And then in terms of extra, I guess, you know, understanding the power of the different keys, because remember there's a posting key, a memo key, I forget the other ones. There's two other keys, and they all have different levels of authority. So if you can recognize the different utility of each of those and never use a key that's too powerful for a given act, that's going to really help you be more secure with your assets. And there's other ways too, like you can lock your cards. You can come in here and you can actually go into your cards and you can lock certain assets, which prevents them from. You can lock cards, and it's like you were about to lock the card that's listed below. Please make sure you understand how it works. And it goes on. It's like a certain time period. How many days do you want to do it? And it's like, it makes it so even if somebody hacked your account, got your keys, they wouldn't be able to necessarily remove these assets in the time window that they would have access to your computer or to your keys for. And so that's an important piece of knowledge too. But I'm actually going to leave it there. Guys, thank you so much for your time and attention. Thank you for the questions. Like I said, please drop them below for any future content that you want me to get into, and I will do my best. And as always, thank you for everything you guys do. I appreciate you. Have an amazing day. God bless.